everybody. So let's talk consumers. We haven't talked about consumers since I've been here. We talk about patients, but aren't patients consumers? And my background is in retail, as she just said. But I think it kind of crosses over, doesn't it? Consumers goes through just about everything. But first, we're going to get into a little bit of science. So does anybody know what that is? All these engineers out here? Wow. Travis, you said that? That's exactly right. That is a supernova. So that is the supernova Crab Nebula, which was taken by the renewed telescope, the Hubble telescope that we put out there. We buffed it up like 4 years ago, took that picture, does actual colorations. It's magnificent. I think it was the first time we saw it. I saw this published and I thought, well, that thing is really great. So then you have to ask yourself, what does supernova have to do with what I'm going to talk about or what you guys do? And I saw this definition. I'm like, okay, what the hell is a supernova? Which is the great thing about Google or anything else now. As my brother always says, there's no such thing as I don't know to a question anymore. So it's a large explosion that takes place at the end of a star's life cycle, creating new stars and even galaxies. So I started to think about this in reference to places that we go. Like we get in our car, we drive somewhere, and we go to this place. And that's all we did. As a matter of fact, for centuries, we would get in our cart, we would get in our horse, we would get in our crappy little car, we would get in our electric car, and we're going to a place. And that was our star for the longest time. In my world, the world that I came out of for the past like 35 years, it was stores. But in your world, it's also a place that people go to and that place that people visit. So I'm going to talk about that. First thing I'm going to do is talk about that, as a matter of fact. Just a quick agenda. I'm going to talk about a confluence of disruptors that sort of made this supernova happen when it happened. And really, as a precursor, I really think there was only one disruptor during the whole pandemic. I'll talk to you about that. And then I'm going to give away the surprise here at the end of it. Spoiler alert, get local, only the difference to me is to start to think local, because I don't think we're thinking local. We're thinking, well, yeah, there's a shopping center over there that we got to drive 5 miles to. I'm talking about local. And then I'm going to give you guys some homework, those of you that stayed and that are drinking. I'm going to give you the 15-minute city homework. And if you haven't read about that, a lot of you guys are architects, so you have read about it. But I think it's really kind of the future of where we're going right now, especially with the idea of environmentalism kind of coming to the forefront. First, a commercial about the company I work for. I don't do long commercials, so have no fear. I work for a company called WD Partners. This is our ball of influence, if you would. These are the services that we have. We think together. A strategist will understand architecture. Somebody who does operations will understand construction management. So I led the design team for over 15 years, and I always knew that a soffit wouldn't work in a certain place, things like that. So we're a different kind of team, end-to-end services and innovation at scale. Oops, I hit the wrong button. I hit the speed button. And then Zach and Dan, you guys want to raise your hands? Also work for WD Partners. Where's Dan? Did he run out on me? There you are. Back there. So all those brands off to the left, you get better answers about those brands off to the left from those guys than you will from me. I know enough about them to be really dangerous, but those guys are super dangerous. End of commercial. Supernova, let's talk about the supernova. So in retail terms, and really in terms of spaces, and what you guys do as well, there's this one shining star, like I was saying before, just one single star. We just relied on it. Everybody got in their cars or whatever they did, took a train, and they went there. And around about 2005, somewhere around there, I could be off by 5 years or so, there was a supernova. And so all of a sudden we have social media, we have live stream, we have mobile, we have e-com, we have dark stores, we have direct-to-consumer, we have stores, we have telehealth, we have things like that. You don't even have to go see a doctor anymore. All this happened just within the last few years. And the stores were included in that. Boom, exploded. And stores became mobile and showroom and pop-up and micro-fulfillment centers and experience stores and 25, 30 different types of stores. Why did that happen? Like what was the final blow to really get the crab nebula of our century going? So just using stores as an example. This was one of them, and we knew this. And you could put this under the category of technology, but really e-commerce and technology happened. I'm not gonna spend a long time on that because we all know what it was, and we're all in the midst of it. We're all trying to figure out. Somebody in this room is actually trying to figure out what a metaverse is. I'm sure of it. So it went like this, right? Technology, logarithmic. And I'll show you that in a second as well. And then to back me up, here's McKinsey. And just in 1 year, from 2020 to 2021, e-commerce alone increased 35%, a big number on a really big number. And if you look at Amazon, 62%. And so it kind of makes me laugh when I see like the last quarterly result for Amazon. Well, maybe we're not going to do as good against last year. Well, look at last year. I hope not. And so this is a WD Partners study that we did with 2,700 people across the United States, and I'll show you the vitals on that here in a second. But we asked them, and we've asked them now 3 years in a row, a really specific but simple question. What's your preferred method of shopping going forward? Is it e-commerce or is it stores? Do you want to go somewhere to get your stuff or do you want to shop online? 68% is the number. Now, what's more astounding to that, to us, and I don't have that with me, but last year was 52%. The year before that was 26%. So we're headed in the direction of 100% at a very rapid pace. 100% is preferred method of shopping. Doesn't mean you always do it. Doesn't mean you'll never go to a store. Doesn't mean you'll never go to the doctor. But it's the preferred method. And that's the inverse. So e-commerce is one, but the other one that I'm going to spend a little bit of time on is work from home. And to me, work from home was the only true disruptor of the pandemic because it changed everything. It changed rote behavior. It changed the way that people think. And I know it did for me, and I know it did for a lot of the people in this room. All of a sudden, you're like, I just got up, I put on a pair of shorts, and I started working. And compared to the tie and the suit and the car and the commute and getting there and marching through a city, or maybe not, maybe going through a parking lot, blah, 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 it's a massive, massive difference in the way that you think, in the way that you perceive things. I keep pushing the wrong button. Somebody come and correct me. Okay, so McKinsey, again, a little secondary research. Looks like an eye chart, and it's the last one I'm going to show you. But CEOs on one side, employees on the other side, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. And if you just look at the orange number, look at CEOs. So before the pandemic, they're thinking everybody's going to come and work 4 or more days a week, 5 days a week. And at that post-pandemic now, it's almost half that. It's 40-some% less. But look at employees. Employees always thought, 30% of employees always wanted, pre-pandemic, to work from home. And now they're down to 30%. More than half of them want to work hybrid. That's from McKinsey. And our numbers are kind of bear that out across all sectors. So if you just look at the orange number on the top and the blue number on the bottom, that's before and after, 10 to 25, 11 to 23, double, 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 double. And this is my favorite one. I just pulled this last week, I think, as I saw it in Bloomberg, and I just love the hugely better. It's hugely better. So better and all that, you can see that the number is way over 60-some%. So more than 2/3 of people are saying, yeah, man, that's a lot better. And I always have this kind of thing when I look at numbers like this and I think, who are the 25% that think it's the same? It's not this, isn't it one or the other? I don't know. Nobody got my joke? Anyway. It's not the same. Anyway. So then we asked, back to the WD study, 2,700 people. And I'm not drinking, just so you know. Not yet, anyway. How many people are not going to go back to work 5 days a week going forward? It's like everybody in this room. This is the number that we got from 2,700 consumers. So I have been doing research for a long time, and I've never seen that number. I've gotten some 90%, some 95, some 96. Every single person, 2,700 people say, I'm going back to work 5 days a week. Every single person. Boom, supernova. Crab nebula happened to us all. So that changed. So people are thinking differently about that, completely different. So here's like a quick research number, because actually I got to get going so we get some LA news up here. Age is kind of center, the gender is split. We went with an office crowd, and so we went to income at about 30,000. We didn't go below 30,000 on income, just so you know. So these are predominantly office people or people that have worked in an office. So we started talking to them about working from home. How many of you, 2,700 people, not you guys, were required to work from home? 65%. So 2/3 of people had kicked out of the office one time or another. Get out. Everybody get out. Go home and figure out how to work from home. And I know like our office, we did that. We kicked everybody out. No masks, no nothing. After about 4 months, we said, you can come back. And they were like, no, we're not coming back. So we have two-thirds of people kicked out, working from home. They had to. Percentage of working home, how often in 2020, like the worst year, really, all the way through to kind of the end of 2021, but 2020 was the worst year. How many of you work 50% of the time at home? 83% of the people worked at home half the time out of those 2,700 people. That's pretty much the whole lot of them. So again, they're at home, they're realizing these benefits, and you're going to ask them to come back? I've done this presentation before, and I always tell people, you having a hard time hiring people? Think about this one. And then our projected percent to work from home this year, which is rapidly moving along. So 50% of the time, 60% of the people said, I think I'm going to work from home about 60 or 50% of the time. I think I'm going to work from home about 25% of the time. And then, as I showed you before, absolutely zero said I'm going back 100% of the time. So here's the impact of that. And I kept this one retail slide in there, but I kept it in there because I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the stuff on the left. So the really good news is I'm never going to a store, or I'm never going to my doctor, or I'm never going anywhere. That's not everybody. It's not the end of it for sure. The bad news is the 11% on indoor malls. If anybody in real estate, development, thinking of things like, well, you know, I could open a healthcare center and a shopping center because of all the traffic, I would really think twice about that. And this is not the only number that we've got about that. I'm not here to diss malls, so that'll be the end of that. The real true number is the number on the far right. 37% of people said, well, now that I'm at home, that's where I want to shop. I want to shop local. I want to shop in my neighborhood. So what does like kind of that mean? And we're talking about a 3-mile radius. So very close to your home, people want to shop there. So have we really thought about the power of a neighborhood? How deep can we get in a neighborhood? What is that power of that neighborhood? So we tested some local concepts, and this is retail skewed, but I think that you'll get the idea, and there's some crossover in this as well. So we asked them, if you explored locally, you got outside, you're walking around, you're taking your kids for a walk, what would you want to see? So in terms of stores, we said, well, how about a mobile shop? What if somebody pulled up with a truck and it had everything that you wanted, regardless of what it was? What type of service? Was it consumer electronics, or was it anything related to healthcare that we could get to people that really needed it? 16%, and I should have said at this time, so now we're in this range of top 2 boxes. So on a scale of 1 to 7, these percentages I'm about to show you are only 6s and 7s. So normally, if you just took that straight percent, it's about 27%. So 16% is not very good. Oops. Back one. Didn't work. Pop-up shop. So a pop-up shop, you think, well, what's the difference between that and a mobile shop? You can open a shop, whatever that might be, and leave it there for 3 or 4 months. If it works, you could keep it, but you could also disappear. A lot of retailers do this for Christmas. They'll open in like October, they'll close at the end of January, make a fortune and run for the hills. But the 30% number over the 27 is better. That's a little bit better anyway. A showroom store, which in retail jargon is like the Maid store there in London on the top and Dyson on the bottom. If you've been to Dyson in New York City on 5th Avenue, they'll take dirt and throw it on the floor. You test out which one of the vacuum cleaners you like the best, and they'll ship it to your house. A lot of times it'll get there before you do. So they only have one of a kind there. The rest are in boxes. They ship it. 33% is okay. This is a number that intrigued me, and especially as a crossover to healthcare, in that I didn't expect this number to be that high. I thought this number would be more like in the teens, like some of those other numbers, like 15% or maybe even less, because other than maybe Best Buy, like coming into my house, although I guess that's a great example, I have a hard time doing this. I also thought Walmart gets it, because you remember Walmart did that test where they were going to bring merchandise and put it in your refrigerator? Personally, I thought, you can come into my house and fix my TV, but I don't know about putting apples in my refrigerator. But they obviously had some numbers that were as high as this that thought we ought to test it. And then this is something that's huge right now in restaurants and in retail, a dark store. So basically, it could be in any kind of neighborhood. There's a pickup window for either delivery drivers or for you on your way home from work, and it's got a logo on it. Let's say it's a Wendy's logo or something like that. Let's say it's some kind of healthcare logo, and you want to pick something up. It could be anything. 50% is huge. That's a huge number for top 2 boxes. So very much so and extremely so. I would like to see a dark store in my neighborhood. And when we talked to them, it was like I said, I want to drive home from work as my way home from work, or if I'm out walking and with a stroller, I can just go by there and pick it up. A big one is a big brand with a local store. And it's already starting to happen. You'll see retailers start to move to this, but it could work really well for healthcare, I believe, as well. If you have a big brand, but you have a presence on a street that people are walking by, that 37% of 2,700 people thought that it'd be a really good idea to shop by. Big brand, local store is huge. And the biggest of all, 60% means basically we're way behind the consumer. So one of the things that dawned on me about this is, could you do a sub-brand? Could you do a local brand? Could you make your brand, a piece of your brand, local for neighborhoods like this? Because that's where they want to shop. Those are 2 local shops in Columbus, Ohio. They're not that local. I mean, they have stores all over Ohio, but still, that's what they reacted to. Okay, so quick summary from the bottom up. Experience in mobile, not so much. Showroom and pop-up, In-home service, I'm going to dive down a little bit because there was a factor within that really kind of changed my opinion about it. And then dark stores, I don't know how that crosses over, but I wanted to show you guys so you think about it, because you don't really need anything to operate that. You don't really need to build out a lot. You need to build out 4 walls, and you have the inventory, and you have a window, and customers love it. Big brand going local is a huge factor. 52%, so over half the people said top 2 boxes on that, and local brand, like we just said. So then we ask also, we have a series of questions that I'm not going to show you, but one of them was, are you going to shop more local now? 88% of them said yes. So pretty much everybody. I'm going to shop way more local now than I used to. So again, this goes back to work from home for me. I'm at home, I'm in my neighborhood. There's nothing here. There's nothing here that I can really take advantage of. I got to get in my car, and I got to do those things that I used to do, take that car and drive 15 miles to a hospital or to a shopping center or something like that to get what I need. And now it's a little bit like e-com when you think about how slow that gradient was to get to e-com, which started maybe 1995, and we didn't get to 2020 before e-com really took off to the numbers that I just showed you. So get local, or think local. And the reason these guys have me show this presentation is exactly that. So start thinking about local and how that would work, especially for a PCP. How does that work? And by the way, it's happening. So some case studies. We know about Target. Target beat Walmart to the punch on this. They're going to open 90-some stores. As much as you hear about Target's stock dropping because they predicted a little bit lower number, if you look at last year's number, they should predict a lower number, but you should have a lot of faith in that brand. WD Partners did this, designed this health hub, and there's hundreds of those right now, and they're successful. IKEA is doing smaller stores in neighborhood. One Medical, which is another brand that we're working with, that Dan would talk about for at least 3 hours. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I think that'd be a great shop to have local. Nike is doing local stores. Forward Health is doing local stores. Ulta Beauty, whose numbers are off the charts, started local. They're in like Heath, Ohio. There's like 400 people in Heath, Ohio, and they have an Ulta there. And it's the only place to shop. And also Whole Health. But at the end of the day, this shot from Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, see that shop straightforward? That's what we're talking about. Local, local, local. Because that's where you work. There's several companies now, I just read an article in the Times this week, that several of the larger financial firms, both in New Jersey and New York City and Manhattan, are opening offices in Brooklyn because that's where their customers live. And just a little dive down on that. So remember I was saying, should we have in-home services? So we dove down further with the same 2,700. We gave them 4 choices. Yes, all stores should have it. Some stores should have it. No store should have it. One other choice I forget. But some stores, overwhelming choice, which makes sense and kind of an answer we expected. But what I didn't expect of those 6s and 7s was the 7s was 43%. So there's a large percentage of people out there that would be okay if you came into their house and took care of them for whatever it was, home services, whatever that might be. And so again, this is one of those places of, you know, we're a lot smaller than Walmart. So you can see like Walmart was way ahead of us on this and Best Buy was years ahead of us on this. Okay, so it's homework time. So the 15-minute city was created by this architect whose name is Carlos Moreno, a Spanish architect. And the idea is to have everything and every service that you need within like walking distance or cycling distance of your home. And what that means is not like some of those planned communities that were created in the 50s. I think there was one in Baltimore, one in Chicago. It's like this. Right now there's an architect in Utah that is building a 15-minute city. France has said we're going to create 2 15-minute cities within our borders. And if you see, like, there's healthcare facilities, there's stores, employment, that's where you work, you don't have to travel. And if you really want to get out and go somewhere, that's where you go, and that's when you go on vacation versus having to drive 1 hour to work or 45 minutes to work. So we took an example of Columbus, Ohio, which had 8 shopping centers at one point in time. Just found out today that yesterday, the mall, the Tuttle Crossing, which is up on the upper left-hand side, somebody got shot in there. So I think that mall's about this far from closing. I think we're gonna have, out of the 8 malls, we're gonna have 2. And one of those I don't think is gonna survive either within the course of 10 years. The one that will survive, the last part of its name is City Center. So it makes sense to me. But why couldn't it be like this? Because if you know Columbus, Ohio at all, there's all kinds of little communities. So from a real estate and a development and also spreading the brand venture, like where do you spend your capital? How do you get your brand out there? Instead of building like half hospitals out in the cornfields, wouldn't it be an idea to get a smaller shop with just what you need and to connect you with the right people right there where the people live? Because they're out there walking, they want to shop more local, they've said so, they're at home. It was the major disruptor of that pandemic. They're at home and they want to shop you. So, real quick summary. There was double disruptors. We talked about them. Get local, think local. Think local first, then get local. 15-minute city. And again, I'm not here to diss this, but be careful if that's what you're thinking about in terms of your real estate. And I always like to close out with a quote. So I'm going to close out with this one. But every time I see this picture, I think, is that what a $100 billion smile looks like? It's just kind of, you know, like a little smirky. I want to get that down somehow, but I need 100 billion first. So if you're leaning away from the future will win every time, and I think that's very prophetic. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.